Kia ora talo namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Niche Cache. This is our big old podcast coming at you on a Tuesday, and we are here to chat about Aotearoa sport, the big topics that we always discuss. And first, need to get out some gratitude to the Patreon whānau, gratitude to the free and paid Substack subscribers on Substack, and gratitude to everyone listening and watching as well. We appreciate your presence here with us as we jibber jabber about Aotearoa sports. And this was a interesting bit of news this morning, because I was going to celebrate the one and only Daryl Mitchell, the Dazzler, and now he's injured. So that actually played into my talking point about Daryl Mitchell, where there's a couple, but I have thrown up Daryl Mitchell and Rachin Ravindra as the Blackcaps' two best all-format batters. And we've talked about it, how close they actually are as like competitors for that top spot. And to be honest, it's day by day, day to day. One day it's Rachin Ravindra, next day it's Daryl Mitchell. Both have pretty solid cases to be the best all-format batter from Aotearoa right now. After the century, it was definitely Daryl Mitchell, and now Rachin Ravindra gets an opportunity to push forward because Daryl Mitchell has been ruled out of the ODI series due to injury. And this is a Daryl Mitchell who is basically our best ODI batter ever. He is the only batter who is averaging over 50 for New Zealand with at least 1,000 ODI runs. He's averaging 53.13. Kane Williamson's averaging 48.69. And I usually, when you're doing these little lists, you try and keep it at a nice round 5. Yeah, 5 me. But I did have to include Rachin Ravindra in that list because he's in the list. He's got 42.31, and Devon Conway, shout out Devon Conway, 44.52. You got Latuda Taylor, 47.5. Glenn Turner, the OG, 47. Not only is Daryl Mitchell notably higher than Kane Williamson, but he's the only dude over 50. And I do really enjoy watching Rachin Ravindra bat. I do really enjoy everything about Rachin Ravindra, but I mean, big respect things to Daryl Mitchell because he is an absolute monster for New Zealand. And I'm curious well, it's not really a complicated question, because if you are the Dazzler, if you are here to dazzle, as Daryl Mitchell does, there's only one shot that comes to mind, right?
Six straight down the ground.
Yeah. And it's an effortless monster six. Like, Daryl Mitchell isn't just, he's not swinging super hard to try and get it just over the rope. No, he just like takes a little step down the pitch, middles it, and it goes 20 meters beyond the boundary. I feel like that is the signature dazzling shot. Like, you're only the Dazzler because of that shot. But respect to his pull shot, do love his pull shot. Obviously coming out of Western Australia, he does smash a pull shot.
Don't forget the reverse sweep as well. The little paddle sweep that he has. He's a few reverse sweeps. You know, there's the one that just to get off strike in test matches, and there's the one that's like, this third man's up. This is a boundary hitting shot that we see a lot in the limited overs stuff. That's always one. We did talk about him, He's on that list of like the great sweepers that we have at the moment, along with like Tom Latham and Kane Williamson, and in a more of the domestic scene, Bruce Mariu, who I think was the sort of the instigator for that idea the other week when we're talking about that. Because he's just sweeping both sides of the wicket, scoring big runs like that in all formats now of we haven't seen it in Super Smash yet, but he's doing it in the Ford Trophy. He's already been doing it in the Plunket Shield. Daryl Mitchell actually does score runs on both sides with sweeps in all three formats internationally as well. That's another reason why he's so good. Like, yeah, what a player to watch, and what a player to have in your team, because he always seems like one of those guys. Like, it's just enough to look at the runs that he scored in the last couple, like the last month of ODI cricket in particular, But then to also look at like the context of those runs where he's scoring unbeaten 50s and run chases against England, where he's scoring 100 here to turn what was a little bit of a struggling innings in the first ODI against West Indies into what was just a winning total. Like it wouldn't have been a winning total without him. These are winning knocks as well as being consequential ones just in terms of the runs he's scoring.
I appreciate Daryl Mitchell's reverse sweep, but the other shot that I was thinking about with Daryl Mitchell was his back foot punch. Because that, to me, that is his most like Aussie shot as well as his pull shot.
Yeah.
But his back foot punch, I think, is almost as good as Kane Williamson's. Like he can just kind of cruise through that back foot punch, and it is a glorious shot. You talking about your reverse sweeps there? What do you think about Zach Foulkes just showing his class with the not sweep, but his not really a scoop, but just I don't know what it is.
It's almost like a slap shot,
Not really. He's not slapping anything. He's kind of just like it's slip catching.
Yeah.
No, because he's
okay.
I don't know how because the closest thing it is a scoop. So I don't know how scoop and slap are in your mind together, but that's all right. But I do think
it's very similar to, one's just getting under and one's getting over. That's the only difference. But yeah, you're right. It's like it's somewhere in between those things. I'm not sure how to define that. But he did it twice in a row, didn't he?
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, sorry, I'll have to go hard on this and say with he's not slapping anything. He's given catching practice, but he's slapping the catching practice. Maybe if we combine the two. So I did like to see that from Zach Foulkes, and that is I do feel confident when they're getting down to that lower order. Like we've seen Zach Foulkes add some runs a few times now. What's he doing ODI batting this year? Zach Foulkes, 2 innings, 36 runs, strike rate of 90. That's right for a bloke like him in his role. One other thing with the batters, and I do the innings in that first ODI was stumbling a little bit. But in this list here, we got Mitchell averaging 53, Conway's averaging 44.5, Ravindra's averaging 42.3. So yes, most of the batting lineup can stink in one game, but the way the Blackcaps are so deep and so talented right now, like someone's going to do something, and you only need one. Like it's not like every innings is going to be the perfect team contributions and stuff like that, but Conway, credit to Conway. I do want to shout out Conway because we have been critical of Conway. And I will start by being critical of Conway because I don't like watching him bat. Like it's tough going.
Yeah.
It's kind of torturous watching someone who is clearly out of form, looking for form, and they're looking for form where the one shot they middle is going to the fielder. And it's like stuff like that is happening. And then Conway's trying to play the dinky dobblers behind the wicketkeeper. Like there's one, it might have been a T20, I don't know. But like he played one and he hit it for 4 like through fine leg. And then he tried it again, he just missed it. And it's like, that's the Conway experience where he's just missing a lot of those shots and struggling for form. But he's fighting. And he's got 3 good scores in a row now, 56, 47, not out, 49. Again, it's not fun to watch, but he is fighting for every run, and that's all we can ask for from these dudes. And it's the best thing for Kiwi cricket, because if Conway is just fighting for runs and he's clawing his way to every single run, and he is putting up 30s and 40s instead of 5s and 6 and 13 and whatnot, Will Young has to score runs. Mark Chapman has to score runs. Reece Mariu has to score runs. Like, the best thing for the Blackcaps is to have all these dudes somehow scoring runs, whether they're scoring runs in glorious fashion because they're in form. I don't think Daryl Mitchell's ever out of form, so I don't think form applies to him. But I do want to shout out Conway because he's got 3 40-plus scores in a row. They've all been pretty terrible to watch, but he is fighting for those runs, and he is fighting for his international career, and he's doing a good job of fighting the cricketing demons. So I do want to shout out the one and only Devon Conway. One other thing I was thinking about with the Blackcaps is there's a few, might be a few of these in the podcast today. The Where We At With It. Shout out to Boldy James, 227, Concreature. Where We At With It. Where We At With It with Kyle Jamieson. How are you feeling about Kyle Jamieson as a bowler for the Blackcaps in ODI cricket this year? For some context, 6 wickets, average of 35.3. I think he's averaging around the same in T20 bowling this year as I pull it up quickly. 11 wickets at an average of 29.6. His best format is test bowling, so if he's getting those overs through, he might pop up in the test series against the West Indies as well. But Kyle Jamieson, he's played 10 games of T20 cricket this year. He's played 5 games of ODIs. He's there. He's playing cricket. And he was the leading wicket taker, I think, in that first ODI. So where we at with it with Kyle Jamieson?
Well, I think that's the key point, is that he's playing, and he's playing every game. And this would appear to be building him up, yes, to like a return to the test team, which would be very nice. It would be very handy. Because I don't think Will O'Rourke will be playing test matches against West Indies. I don't think he's back from injury, so there's at least one spot there open. And that's been Kyle Jamieson's spot, and he's been an outstanding. In fact, there was quite a bit of parallel between the way Jamieson and O'Rourke both came into the test team. Immediately took a bunch of wickets. Feels like O'Rourke's average has sort of like balanced out quicker than it has done for Kyle Jamieson. But he's also like he's an experienced seam bowling head as well to have at this point of his career now. He's been around the Blackcaps for quite a while. He's been out with injuries and he's come back from injuries, and he seems like he's always in one of those phases, but he is an experienced player, and this is at a time when there's a few more inexperienced seam bowlers coming through into the team alongside Matt Henry, who's been carrying pretty much all that weight for a while and carrying it superbly. But it would be nice to have someone like Kyle Jamieson in there alongside him as well to just to bolster those things. Do you see him as first 11 in ODI or T20 though? Because he is playing like a first 11 player in as much as he's being selected in the first 11 over and over again. But the numbers you pointed out there, it's not like he's taken a bunch of wickets. It does feel like this is a ramping up process for him. But he's a first 11 test player, and I'm not sure if I don't know if he is in the other formats. I'm curious what you would say on that matter.
Yeah, right now I'd probably select Kyle Jamieson ahead of Nathan Smith. We've got a bit of a kind of a slide for Nathan Smith happening because he's not in the first 11 ODI right now. And that's kind of because of Jacob Duffy. Like, Jacob Duffy's excellent in ODIs and T20s, and then you've got Jamieson, you've got Folks, and so on. And Nathan Smith, I don't think he's yet played a T20 yet. I think he was part of the squad, but I don't know if he played. Let me double check that. And of course, well, the thing that I thought about is when you started to ask that question, no, Nathan Smith is yet to play a T20, so he's not in that mixer. He's in the mixer as the old Porirua Park. I don't want to celebrate Porirua Park in a jiffy, but every time there was a corner at Porirua Park, and I just love the whole experience of Porirua Park, Wellington Phoenix woman playing there, every time there was a corner, you just hear, "Put it in the mixer." And I was like, that touched my heart. That really pulled on my heartstrings, just putting it in the mixer, one of my favorite words. I don't know any first 11 bowling things right now, I don't think. Like, I know Matt Henry's there. If it's ODIs and T20s, I kind of want Jacob Duffy there. Other than that, I've got no idea what a first 11 bowling attack looks like. Santner will be there for sure. I want Santner in any cricket team I've got. So it's kind of like maybe, because Duffy is not a first 11 test bowler, he is a first 11 T20 bowler. There's a bit more debate about ODIs, but I'd have him in the ODI team. So I think maybe just first 11 status, it's Matt Henry and Mitchell Santner, and then we see who's healthy, because that's how much depth we have. Is that we can just kind of roll with whoever's available, and it's no big deal. Will O'Rourke's almost played as many tests as Kyle Jamieson. He's played 11 tests, averaging 24.2. Kyle Jamieson's played 19 tests, averaging 19.7. So that's where they're at. But there's no desperation to get like Kyle Jamieson needs to be in the first 11 for the test team, because we've seen how that might work out as far as injuries and workload. So I think he'll be in the test squad, and we'll just see once again like who's fit, who's available, because Daryl Mitchell's out injured. Like these dudes are getting injured a fair bit, and like the list of players out injured right now is pretty long as well, with Glenn Phillips, your Finn Allens, like those characters. So I don't know about first 11 bowling attacks, but yeah, Kyle Jamieson's playing cricket and he's in the mix. And the one thing I have also been thinking about for the Blackcaps bowling attack is these dudes swing the ball. And as we talked about last time, Kyle Jamieson, he just moves the ball both ways. Like we did do the visualization with Kyle Jamieson last week. He does have that hoop and in swinger to the right hander away from the lefty, but he can bowl outswing to the right-hander as well. Like he's not always bowling the hoop and in-swinger to the right-hander. He genuinely moves the ball both ways in the air, swinging the ball. But I don't think Kyle Jamieson's a swing bowler. I don't think any of these dudes are swing bowlers. And this is an interesting thought, because we go back to the previous era. Southee and Bolt were swing bowlers. Then that's what made Neil Wagner so important, because he would do the stuff that Southee and Bolt wouldn't do, as far as bouncing them, getting them on the back foot, challenging them in different ways. Like Southee might bowl the odd bouncer, but he's not bouncing anyone. He's not bowling a hard length because it's going to sit up. He's bowling 132 Ks. Bolt,
well,
he
so
might.
It's Neil Wagner.
Yeah, but he's
a different type of 132 Ks.
It's his whole career shtick. Trent Bolt, he might bowl the odd bouncer, but he's not like hitting that hard length and doing that stuff. He's pitching it up to get the swing. Yes, Jamieson, Foulkes, O'Rourke, they swing the ball. That's what do we say about those three? They all swing the ball into right-handers away from left-handers. That's their natural movement. But I don't think they're swing bowlers, because Jamieson's 3 meters tall, so it's all about his bounce and his links, and then you add in the fact that the ball is swinging. Will O'Rourke's bowling 145 Ks, smashing blokes on the hand with seam movement as well. Zach Foulkes, he's a quirky mofo. He's got a funky action. Like they keep saying, anytime Zach Foulkes bounces someone, oh, he's got a good bouncer. Like Jamieson and O'Rourke, they're going to hit the deck hard and use that height, use that length. O'Rourke's got the pace. Jamieson's even taller. Foulkes has his whole thing going on. Matt Henry, is he a swing bowler? No, he hits the deck. He seams it. So, like, and then who else are our bowlers? Ben Sears. Is he a swing bowler? No, he's a hectic bowler. Everything's hectic about Ben Sears. Any other seamers you want to throw at me? Jacob Duffy.
Smith, Jacob Duffy.
So Jacob Duffy, he swings the ball. Yeah. Well, Tickner, he's a seamer with his decent pace. But Duffy's the most interesting one because he does bowl conventional swing. But why is Jacob Duffy in the Blackcaps? Because he started running on his toes and he was bowling 140 Ks. He was the fastest bowler in that game against the West Indies. So he's playing international cricket because he's got a bit more speed and he's hitting the deck. He's hitting the hard length with that outswing as well. Jacob Duffy would have been just a regular domestic seamer for even longer, I reckon, if he just bowled the full outswinger. But he has gone into international cricket because he's bowling a bit faster. He's running on his toes. He's got that extra gear to make sure he is bowling a harder length. So yes, he is the most typical swinger of that kind of bowling unit. But his Blackcaps career, to me, does not revolve around swing bowling. Nathan Smith, he's going to swing the ball, but he's more similar to Matt Henry, where he's hitting that hard length top of off with nibble and wobble. So the thing here is that all these dudes can swing the ball. If you present them with swinging conditions, they're going to swing the ball and they're going to get you out. It's like if you offer me a free feed just after I have dinner. Do I need it? No. Am I going to eat it? Yes. If you present these dudes with swinging conditions, they're going to swing the ball. But I don't think any of them, they aren't relying on swing the same way Southee and Bolt do, because they've got so many other skills. They've got so many other assets, their height, their speed, their action. And I find that pretty interesting because everyone thinks they're swing bowlers, they're seam bowlers. You need them in seaming conditions, green pitches, and all this stuff. And I think there's a bit more to them than that. In the same way, and this is a trend across all cricket that we've seen, and we've talked about it before, spin is a factor in New Zealand. Most domestic men's teams are playing with at least one spinner. Maybe two, like Auckland, Ford Trophy, they got Ashok and Gulati. ND always has Tim Pringle. Wellington always has Peter Younghusband. CD they've been playing Ford Trophy with Jaden Lennox and Ajaz Patel. They've got Angus Shaw ready to bowl off spin as well. Canterbury, Michael Rippon, Ish Sodhi, Raunak Kapoor. Otago have been playing with Ben Lockrose in all their teams. Women, it's a little, the parameters change a little bit, but all these teams have I think CD Women they won both games against Canterbury with 3 seam spinners. Kumar, Kaur, they got Bartlett, the leggy. These teams are playing with 2 or 3, maybe even 4 spinners. So in domestic cricket, spin is a major factor. We're seeing the Blackcaps play with Santner, Bracewell and Sodhi. Spin is a factor in New Zealand. It's not like it's all just seaming, but a lot of people look at New Zealand and think just the seaming stuff, but go back, that's kind of like a perception myth about Kiwi cricket. And I think that's the same with the seamers, where yes, they will swing the ball if the conditions present themselves, but they have so much else going on as far as what they're capable as bowlers, that they're not necessarily reliant on swing alone.
Yeah, the spin doesn't work in New Zealand idea is a funny one, because I think it's really based on people just looking at the Blackcaps and seeing that, there was that spell, certainly peak Southee, Bolt, Wagner era. Spinners almost never took wickets in home test matches. That's probably because they had 3 world-class seamers taking all the wickets. The spinners coming on at second, third change. There's not a lot to go around at that point. And often because of that, they would just use the spinners as a clog up and end while we attack with another seamer at the other end kind of thing. But the funny thing about that is, if you actually look at what visiting teams did against New Zealand during that same spell, there's a lot of wickets taken by spinners during that era. If you go back through history, like Shane Warne and Matai Muralitharan never had any trouble taking wickets in New Zealand conditions. They had averages in the teens or the very, very low 20s. And there's been I can remember Keshav Maharaj taking a bunch of wickets against New Zealand. I can remember, was it Jack Leach or one of the English spinners came here and did quite well. I think Monty Panesar's taken wickets in New Zealand. A lot of visiting spinners actually do take a lot of wickets. But because New Zealand spinners don't necessarily take a lot of wickets in these conditions in test matches, because like you say, at the domestic level, that's still happening. It's only really Blackcaps test matches, and it's Blackcaps spin bowlers. And even then, it's kind of more about how those spinners are used rather than those spinners just not playing, getting big overs and not taking wickets. It's not that. It's Ajaz Patel never taken a test wicket in New Zealand. Well, he's probably he's played test matches where he bowled less than 10 overs. That's why he's not taking a wicket. If you give him 50 overs in an innings, I think he's probably getting a few. There's just that situation doesn't come around very often. So it is a funny myth because yes, obviously the conditions are much better for seam bowling, for swing bowling. But I mean, we have some dry wickets too. We've certainly had some very high scoring test matches in these in this country, and the spinners will do their job if the spinners are given a chance. It's a myth that doesn't entirely it's a myth that doesn't entirely stand up when you put a microscope to it, you know?
Yeah, but what about seamers?
As in all our seamers who can swing but aren't swingers.
Yeah, like how, like what's your perspective on the swingers who aren't swingers?
I think Jacob Duffy maybe fits the closest to the sort of the swing model. But then, yeah, like, your point is fair. Is the way he got into the team wasn't on the basis of his swing bowling, which he's been doing since he started playing domestic cricket at I think still a teenager when he first played for Otago. It's that
17,
he
I
added a bit
think.
of pace. 17, that's nuts. Yeah, it adds up, and it adds up in a way where like this is kind of another perspective on what we've often talked about with the crop of seam bowlers that the Blackcaps have at the moment, is that they're all quite unique. They all do something a little bit freaky, a little bit weird that maybe in some cases like either doesn't come from the coaching textbook, like I think Zach Folks's action would probably fit in that, or it's like they're just athletic freaks, like Kyle Jamieson delivering the ball from the clouds because of how tall he is. Will O'Rourke doing the same thing, almost pretty much the same height. Um, they all have a little bit of freakiness to them, which again goes against the idea of just like being the conventional stereotypical type New Zealand bowler. Like we got plenty of those, and they're doing well in domestic cricket. But the guys who make the Blackcaps are the guys who have an X factor, a little bit of an edge, and that's probably another reason why. Is like they don't have yes, they can swing the ball because they're very talented bowlers, but they don't need to swing the ball to take their wickets because if the ball isn't swinging, they have other options, and the swing might, and in some of those cases, the swing isn't even the first option anyway. Um, it's just it's another angle on this theme that we've had for a little while about just the freaky talents across the seam bowling stuff in particular, but we can we can easily add this into the batting lineup, so let alone the fielding, except for Michael Bracewell the other day, who couldn't catch cold for some reason, even though he's normally one of the best catchers in the team.
One last thing about the Blackcaps is they are 12-6 in T20 internationals, 15-3 in ODIs this year. Tests, they only played Zimbabwe, so we're chilling on that. Like, I'm not going to celebrate a 2-0 test record this year, but they have winning records in ODIs and T20 internationals. I don't know how to say it, but like it's at least double the wins as the losses. So 12-6 is literally double, and then 15-3 is 5 times as many wins. So, funnily enough, New Zealand is actually good at cricket. Bit of mindfulness, but before we get your mindfulness, I do want to get some musical mindfulness because we have the Hallelujah Picassos. I haven't actually heard too much of them before, but they are a New Zealand band, like quite an old school band. Let's see what their YouTube bio describes them as. The Hallelujah Picassos were a reggae, ska, thrash, punk, funk band active in Auckland, New Zealand from 1988 to 1966. So shout out to the Hallelujah
1966?
1996.
Okay. I was wondering if they were working backwards in time, which would have been even cooler, but I've never heard of the Hallelujah Picasso, so that is that's one for the list.
Well, this is actually for the list. The Christoph El Truento digital remix for the song Rewind is like a mandatory well-being mindfulness jam that I think I just need to play every day. It's like the old Bob Marley, I think it's Rastaman vibration. Positive vibration, Rastaman vibration. Not sure, I should know that. Like, let's be honest, should know that one. Let's pull it up. But the Christoph Alchuento, probably my favorite New Zealand musical being. Yeah, positive vibration, Bob Marley. And anything Christoph Alchuento touches, I'm going to listen to it. And this song, Rewind, Relax, Lay Down on a Hill, Relax Your Mind, beautiful stuff. And if you can, try play it in your car. Maybe get your old sound system out, because there's a couple of, like the second half of the song, that bass absolutely is disgusting. But I do want to shout that out. So if you do need some positive energy, positive vibration from Aotearoa, because Christoph Alchuento is from Aotearoa, Hallelujah Picassos are from Aotearoa, have a look at that one. Just search Christoph Alchuento, Rewind, Hallelujah Picassos, Rewind, and you'll find that it is a big jam. And it's also got a touch of mindfulness. And there's the other one, Dick Move. Do love a bit of Dick Move. Another one of my favorite, like I'd say Dick Move and Christoph Alchuento, the biggest, my favorite Aotearoa sports music stuff right now. But Dick Move, they go hard. Any jam goes hard, but they've got their song, Shut Your Mouth. Shut your mouth when you're talking to me. Also, lots of mindfulness, well-being stuff in there, if you, because they're
through more of a punk lens, yeah.
Yeah, the songwriting, the lyrics, every time I listen to it, I find like a different way they've said it, led by that the opening phrase, shut your mouth when you're talking to me, which is like a ridiculous thing to say. But yeah, they're full of mindfulness and insightful well-being stuff as well. So do you have some non-musical mindfulness?
I don't have any musical mindfulness, that's for sure. I do have some non-musical mindfulness. I actually haven't listened to much new stuff lately. I don't know why, but
that's right. You just
there have been
non-musical mindfulness.
Singles. I think Earth Tongue had a new single and a video that was very cool recently. Great South had his new song there that I had in the newsletter yesterday. So there's some good stuff. But for non-musical mindfulness, I mean, the prose of Jorge Luis Borges is pretty musical, but it's not technically literally musical. But so the man here, the great man, Argentina's finest, it's him and Lionel Messi, I think. Diego Maradona probably got to be on that list as well. There's the three Argentines for history. From the story Inferno 132, which I would recommend reading because it's like 2 paragraphs long. Borges' short stories are not long at all, but very succinct and generally have some kind of crazy idea in there. And I'm not going to read the whole thing here, just going to read the last line. For the machinery of the world is much too complex for the simplicity of man.
The machinery of the world is much too complex for the simplicity of men. And I'm happy with that because
handle it, you know?
It's good. Like, I am trying to be as simple as possible. I'm trying to live as simple as possible. So I love being a simple human on this planet. I do want to, like, Argentina, Pablo Matera, rugby player. You got Augustine Creevy, like, they're legends as well. So shout out to them. But
sure.
Yeah. Simplicity, like, it's underrated, sorry, definitely not overrated, underrated. Simplicity, should do more of it.
Yeah, and if our simplicity restricts us from being able to comprehend the machinery of the world, that's fine. The world has its machinery, the world has its sort of its order and its reason, and we can't understand that because we're simple little beings. But that's fine. That's part of, I mean, if anything, that is part of the machinery of the world is our simplicity. No need to fight against it. No need to swim against the tide. We're dumb little humans, and that's fine.
Plunket Shield's also quite fine with me, and we've got the first round is about to begin. So I'll just quickly roll through these team lists. CD, new player alert, Taylor Bettelheim. He's opening the batting. So we'll see what Taylor Bettelheim can do. And of course, CD playing with both Lennox and Patel. Auckland, guess what? They're playing with Ashok and Gulati in the same team as well. And I do want to touch on Auckland in a jiffy because they've got some good stuff happening there. Harish Kanan keeps his first 11 selection streak on. He's batting 3 for Auckland. Wellington. Timmy Robinson's in there. Tom Blundell, captain. Fairly stock standard Wellington team. I think they've been graced with a lot of consistent selections so far this season. Opening batting, or top 3, Mycock, Greenwood, Severin. I like that. Otago. We got Jacob opening the batting, coming into the team. Glenn Phillips is playing. There you go. Glenn Phillips is playing cricket. He is batting 5 for Otago. Tom Jones, don't know much about him. Yeah, maybe. The old sex bomb. And Georgeson captain as usual, so that's nothing crazy there for Otago. Canterbury, Reece Mariu, captain. Scott Janet batting 3. Scott Janet is another very exciting young batter on the rise with Canterbury. And ND, we have another game for Aryan Man, who is the wicketkeeper. So Ben Pomare must be battling a notable injury. Man, he is the wicketkeeper for ND, and he is a very, very talented wicketkeeper batter. So I'll be interested to see if he can score any runs for ND. But if we integrate the HBJ Shield into this discussion, Auckland had 2 wins over the weekend. CD had 2 wins. That means Canterbury and Otago had 2 losses. ND and Wellington 1-1. 1 win, 1 loss. But I think the funkiest thing here to do is put the spotlight on Auckland, because the Auckland women went down to Otago and gave them 2 losses. So that's not the easiest thing to do. But the Auckland men in the Ford Trophy, we've got most of the best players in Ford Trophy, most of the best emerging players, are from Auckland. Harish Kanan, 164 runs. He's 21 years old. Ryan Harrison, 131 runs, strike rate of 113, but he's also got 6 wickets and an average of 26. He's 26 years old. Bevan Jacobs hit a 50. That's pretty solid. He's 23 years old. Jock McKenzie, averaging 34 with the bat, 102 runs, averaging 26.7 with the ball, 24 years old. Simon Keane, 24 years old. Less runs, averaging 26.1 with the ball. Aotearoa, 23 years old, 74 runs, a strike rate of 140, also averaging 22.7 with the ball. Rohit Gulati, aka Mr. Take a Wicket in every domestic innings bowled, 18 with the ball. He's a bit older, 27 years old, but he is still an emerging player. Then you go Auckland. In their 2 wins, and this obviously makes sense, Otago only had 1 batter score 50 plus runs in the 2 games combined, and there were only 2 Otago bowlers who took a wicket in the weekend. Meanwhile, Prue Cadden, 112 runs, Matty Green, 74, Brooke Halliday, 52, Fran Jonas, 5 wickets, Amy Hucker, 5 wickets, Matty Green, Josie Penfold, Molly Penfold, all took 3 wickets each. That is a disgusting domination of Otago by Auckland. So it's a good start to the season for that Auckland, well, both Auckland groups. Just sticking with the HBJ Shield opening weekend, we got 3 bowlers on 5 wickets each. Lucy Boucher, ND seamer, Fran Jonas, Auckland spinner, Amy Hucker, Auckland seamer. And going down the list here, we got Boucher, Jonas, Hucker, Chaw. I thought it was Core, but that's right. Simmons, Meir, Sullivan, Kodaya, Green. There's a Boucher, Hucker, Chalker, Simmons, Sullivan. They're still in the emerging category, so it's good to see them doing some stuff there. I just want to double check this core while I'm talking. And then the run scorers, we obviously had Kate Anderson hitting a big old 171 not out. Prue Cadden, she got some runs. Rowe, Wilson, Tomlinson, Green, Wakeland all got 50s. Brooke Halliday got a 50 as well. Of that group, Anderson scoring runs is really important if she wants to get back into the White Ferns as an opening bat. And speaking of opening batters, Susie Bates. Recent scores 10, 19, 0, 0, 29, 1, 10, 0. So that's not going so well for Susie Bates at the moment. But Kate Anderson got her runs, which was important. Prue Cadden's a good emerging batter on the rise. Saffron Wilson. I actually think Kate Anderson has, off the top of my head, fresh off the dome, take you through for a trip through Dome Valley. I think Kate Anderson probably has the most centuries of the non-top tier New Zealand batters. So she's got 3 centuries in each of her last 4 seasons. So that's a good foundation for Kate Anderson. Saffron Wilson, I think she got a century in a recent season, and she's got a 50 to start this season. She's a younger batter for Otago. Kerry Tomlinson is a Dutch international, very experienced and powerful lower order hitter. And then Natasha Wakeland, her 50 is interesting, very talented player for Northern Districts. So that's good stuff there. We'll slide back to the Ford Trophy, just check in with the best performers in Ford Trophy, which now takes a break. Henry Nichols playing his way back into the Blackcaps. He's still the leading run scorer with his 2 centuries. He comes into the Blackcaps for Daryl Mitchell, and Nichols has recent scores of 34, 4 not out, 150 not out, 117 not out, 11, 138, 25, 15. So he's got 3 centuries in his last 8 innings, and doing that is going to put you back in the Blackcaps when opportunity presents itself. That's another fantastic aspect of Kiwi cricket. So shout out to Henry Nichols. Rob O'Donnell's second for runs, Tom Bruce third, Chad Bowes, Brad Schmullian. And then we get to the best emerging batter, Tim Robinson. He's got 208 runs, strike rate of 98, which is pretty damn good. That's the similar stuff to Chad Bowes. And we know what Chad Bowes does in domestic cricket. He smashes it everywhere. And the bowlers, we got Josh Clarkson, top of the charts, James Hartshawn, Jared Mackay, Simon Keane, Adi Ashok, Angus McKenzie, Jock McKenzie, Fraser Sheep, Peter Younghusband, Jaden Lennox, Michael Ray. So that's where we get the Canterbury dudes coming into the equation, and we got those Aucklanders as well. But now we are in Plunket Shield mode, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that, as we do with all domestic cricket. And I'll say another thing, we do have another lefty seamer in women's cricket. Stella Cornelius, Cantabrian. Well, she's playing for Canterbury. I don't think she's actually from Canterbury. I think she's from Marlborough. Stella Cornelius, lefty seamer. So we got her and Bree Illing right now as the lefty seamers. Quirky note, there was PJ Watkins, but last summer, midway through the summer, she just started bowling spin, and she's still bowling spin. So she is not in the lefty seamer equation, but we do have Stella Cornelius and Bree Illing as our lefties in women's cricket for Aotearoa. So the Plunket Shield games going on at the moment. CD hosting Auckland in Palmerston North. Get along to that if you're in the area. We have Wellington hosting Otago at the Basin Reserve, where I think they should just play all cricket in Wellington. Blackcaps, White Ferns, it should only be played at the Basin Reserve because
it's better.
because it's better, but also like I think the cake tin just kind of ruins everything for the Phoenix, men and women.
Right. It's the anti-Mount Smart.
Yeah, it's like, bro, the stadium, it's never full. It's only full for like a World Cup game and stuff like that. It's never full. Half the stadium's shut off. They do well with their camera tricks to make it look like the stadium's packed. We had a derby there, and like a quarter of the stadium's empty. And it's like, well, good stuff. I'd like to see the men play at Porirua Park, and I'd like to see the Blackcaps play a one-dayer at the Basin Reserve, or even a T20. Like, why not? Who cares? And Canterbury are hosting Northern Districts in Rangiora, and as you're alluding to earlier in the show, Reese Mariu is the Rangiora street sweeper. So he is from Rangiora, I believe. He loves playing in Rangiora, and he is a sweeping maestro. I'll stick to, because I just brought it up, I'll stick to this. The Wellington Phoenix playing at Porirua Park, we did have the change of camera angles, which I enjoyed. So the camera angle is now looking at the stadium. And as I said, you get the crowd noises, put it in the mixer, going hard. Although I think they've got a better camera setup as far as getting the camera nice and high. Did give me a bit of, the old fear of heights, just looking down how tall that camera was up on the scaffolding. Whereas there was a women's National League football game where one of the cameras got knocked over by a player, but that player saved the camera. So I don't think anyone's going to be Sonny billing the scaffolding tower for A-League games at Porirua Park, but you can get that at the National League where one of the players does Sonny bill the camera stand. And then credit to the player, you can name the player, you can put them on a pedestal, celebrate them for their quick wits and good hand-eye coordination for saving the camera tower.
Yeah, that was Vicky Neufeind, who's a left winger for Eastern Suburbs, German, I think, but has been playing in England before coming here. So someone who actually had a fair bit of pedigree when she turned up. I think I'm pretty sure I remember she signed with Auckland United at the start of the year, but then Auckland United is so stacked, I guess she moved to Eastern Suburbs in order to play more regularly. But she's been one of the best players in the National League. She's been awesome. And also, yeah, I don't know who would have had to pay for that, because it wasn't the broadcast camera. It was like the one of the team's scouting cameras, the automated, although they use the exact same cameras for the actual broadcast for National League games. So yeah, while the angles at Porirua Park can be a little bit disorientating, try watching 10 National League games a week. That's the real dizzying stuff, especially when it's grainy on FIFA Plus, not even buffering properly. But yeah, those things cost a couple $1,000, and if that had just smashed on the ground, someone's got to pay for that. So Vicky Neufeind almost cost someone, whether, I don't know, surely you wouldn't make a player pay for it when the player's just playing the game. You put your camera there in the middle of the game, that's your fault. But she did save it. The clip is up there, so it was amazing stuff in a game that didn't have a lot of amazing stuff. Otherwise, it was a very, very, very rare nil-all draw between West Coast Rangers and Eastern Suburbs. But, well, actually, we also got a draw in the Phoenix game as well, didn't we? So there's some closer games this week around the scene.
It was a bit of a bummer for a draw for the Phoenix Women, because they scored an early goal, then Newcastle came back, as you said in our newsletter, the nichecase.substack.com. It was a Kiwi derby with the Phoenix Women playing up against the Kiwi Jets, the Newcastle Jets, with their Kiwi coach and all their Kiwi players. And the Phoenix, they're 10th on the ladder. They've got 2 1-1 draws. And I'm feeling a bit like where we at with it. But I also want to answer my own question, because so the baseline for the Phoenix Women right now is a 1-1 draw? That's all right. I can deal with that. Start the season, you're scoring a goal, but you're not conceding more than a goal. And they do have a bigger challenge this week, because they're playing against Melbourne Victory back at Porirua Park on Sunday. So that will be a stiffer challenge, so they might just lose that game, and then we'll be dealing with 2 draws and a loss, and that might put them in last place on the A-League ladder, and that would be a bit of a disappointing start for the Phoenix under the Bev Priestman era. But 1-1 draw, they're scoring a goal, they're not conceding heaps of goals. Like, it's solid. It's a solid platform to begin with, and then you add in, then you sprinkle on top of that Pia Vlock and some of these other players who are emerging, because Pia Vlock looks sensational, especially like she did the same pass later in the game where one of the players, I think it might have gone to Wynnum before she got injured, and she did like a turn, then another turn, then another turn. And I was like, okay, maybe just put it in the mixer. But Pia Vlock, she gets the ball in the middle of the field, and for the goal, she did this beautiful pass through the defensive line, and it was such a good pass. Like, the closest Phoenix player knew just to let it go to the wide player. It was majestic. And Pia Vlock, she looks really good. She can control the ball. She's a bigger body, so she's not getting bumped off the ball. But she's also got that playmaking touch where she just knows, I've got the ball, I know where it needs to go. And then that pass is accurate, it's on time, and it helps all of those around her. So based on one game sample size of watching Pia Vlock play in the A-League, I want to see Pia Vlock starting every single game. Is that something you're watching out for as well?
Well, at least to have her around the squad every single game, not necessarily starting, because they were short like 3 of their imports in this game and a couple other local players. A little bit of an injury crisis. But I mean, Alyssa Wynnum also seems to be injured now. It doesn't seem as bad as it sounded. I think they're saying hyperextension. Fear when the player goes down clutching their knee is like ACL. That's going to be 9 to 12 months out kind of thing. But the fact she got up and ran around a little bit, even though she couldn't continue, it's like, it's hopefully not structural. But I'm sure she'll miss a couple of weeks off the back of that. You got to imagine. Which, I mean, if Pia Vlock was starting before Alyssa Wynnum got injured, someone else can come back from injury and she's still potentially starting. But at least to have her around the squad, because yes, I think a lot of people, that was probably their first glimpse of what Pia Vlock does. I first saw her playing National League as a 15-year-old for the best team in the country. So already there was like, golden shining signs of this player is something a bit special about them just from that. Then seeing her play national age grade teams, scoring and setting up goals, having an impact like that for Auckland United as well. Last year's National League Grand Final, Chloe Knott was unavailable, sort of late notice, and replacing one of the best players in the country. Pia Vlock comes into the team, scores a spectacular early goal, and wins Player of the Day in the Grand Final. In a championship performance. And she doesn't even play that much for Auckland United when she was around there, because generally the exact same thing that Millie Clegg would do for the same club at the same age, with the same kind of elite junior pedigree, is Pia Vlock spent a lot of time playing boys under 17s football rather than senior women's football during the during the winter season. So she didn't actually play a whole lot outside of National Leagues and Oceania Champions League stuff. But when she did, it was clear like this is a player is something a little bit extra. I think the size and physicality is what struck me from her first A-League start. It wasn't her debut because she did play off the bench in the first game of the season. Only got a small little cameo, but the fact she was there at all was a good sign. And then setting up a goal a few minutes into her starting debut was crazy stuff. But like, obviously, to say I first saw her playing as a 15-year-old and now she's 17 or whatever, just gone back from captaining New Zealand at the under-17 World Cup, by the way. So she wasn't even there for a lot of preseason for that reason, which is another element of this, of just like what a rapid rise this has been for. I don't think she was the last player signed. I think Brooke Nunn was signed after Pia Vlock was signed for this Phoenix squad, but close enough. It's not really saying much to say that she looks bigger and stronger than she was when she was 15, now that she's a couple years older. But what is saying something is that she was out there like taller than most of the grown women she was playing against. She was one of the tallest players out there. Strong on the ball, really good touch, and yeah, the ability to score goals, but also especially to create them is such a valuable thing. And Pia Vlok certainly has that, and she showed it off immediately getting in there. So I hope we do see a lot more of her. I would like to see a bit more of I'm seeing Pia Vlok get this elevation, and I'm wondering where's Ella Jerez? Like, where's her turn as well? That must be coming. She played a little bit last season off the bench. If Wynnum's out injured, perhaps that opens the door there. But then also we saw Lily Brazendale making a debut off the bench. So someone who's been very good for the reserves team throughout the year. On there, I think she might have even scored the goal that won them the semi-final of the Kate Shepherd Cup. Played as they lost to Auckland United in the final, which was going to be a funky one if Pia Vlok had played against the Wellington Phoenix Reserves team just after she had signed for them, but before she had joined them. But she, I think, was injured for that game, so she didn't actually play the Kate Shepherd Cup final. Lily Brazendale did, though, and Lily Brazendale also into the Oceania under-19, scored a bunch of goals there. Can play as a winger, can play as a striker, very fast. That's her key attribute, is she's lightning quick. But also, in a way where we've seen players who maybe in previous New Zealand football eras, we've seen players who are very fast but don't necessarily have the final touch, like a Paige Satchel or someone's probably the best version of that player that stands out, someone who did play for the Wellington Phoenix. Lily Brazendale scores the goals as well. Like, she gets into those situations with her speed, but she also puts the ball in the back of the net. So that's all great stuff. And she would have been, if you'd asked me at the start of the season, like, who are the players on reserve team contracts who are closest to getting to the first team, she would have been right up there alongside maybe I think Amber DeWitt now is the person who is the highest ranked player who hasn't debuted or signed a scholarship contract. Alicia Eglinton would be high on that list as well. Maybe Grace Bartlett, Poppy O'Brien as their wing backs. They've been having good seasons. Poppy O'Brien scored another really good goal this week in a win against Western Springs. So there's some good juniors at this club. As is often the trend, like, these are players scouted from around the country. Lily Brazendale's from Hamilton, Pia Vlok from Auckland, Ella Jerez from Whangarei via Auckland. So there's some exciting stuff there from that Wellington. And that is also, when you're seeing that, that is another reason to be excited, encouraged, I guess, after what was, I mean, I'm not going to be bummed out about them being undefeated after 2 weeks. Like, they could have won both of those games. They maybe even should have won both of those games, particularly being home games against sides that, it's not like the test they'll face next week against Melbourne Victory, or it wasn't playing against Melbourne City or whoever. But they were solid enough performances, considering especially how much change, like new manager, new formation, players playing in different positions. I'm growing quite a lot on the idea of the Grace Jale, CJ Bott midfield conversions. I was already big on that for Grace Jale. I just think that is the position that is going to get the best out of her. I'm coming around to it on CJ Bott as well, particularly because there is the precedent of Rhea Percival going from right back to destructive defensive central midfielder at a very similar very similar time in her career, very similar age, making that transition very successfully. So I'm hoping CJ Bott can do similar things, because she is like a world-class tackler, and you just unleash her in the midfield. She's just bouncing from challenge to challenge to challenge. I think there was one on the weekend as well where it was like she didn't even need to. She rushes out to a player trying to hold the ball up sort of near the sideline and just shoves her over. It's not a tackle or anything. She just shoves her over, and then she stands in front of the free kick and blocks the free kick when they try to take it quickly, which probably should have been a yellow card. Got away with that. We'll see a lot of CJ Bott yellow cards if she's playing in this position. Probably would have anyway, whether she was playing right back or wherever. But I don't know, I just like that. I just like having a strong, powerful, energetic midfielder who's going to bounce from challenge to challenge to challenge. It just make it really tough to play against you. You're not going to run straight through the middle of the Wellington Phoenix's formation if CJ Bott, if you're going to get clobbered by CJ Bott, whether she wins the ball or not. So having a bit more of an enforcer status in there, I think, is useful for the Phoenix to make a progression into being a team that actually wins more games. Just being tough to play against, being difficult. That's all good stuff. So I'm like, this is the first time the Wellington Phoenix women's team have been undefeated after 2 weeks. I'm not going to be too disappointed about that, even though I think same point as last week, later in the season, you would expect them to be winning these games. But early on in the season, I think we can let them have a bit of a we can let them sort of slowly build into things, I think.
I do believe they are much more physical and robust than they were in the previous era of Wellington Phoenix women's football, which is a good place to start. Is like you, as you said, like I think the team just takes on the CJ Bot identity and playing style, and that is a fantastic trait for this group to have, considering they were a bit flimsy with and without the ball in previous seasons. I do want to see the men play at Porirua Park though, because there'll just be so like there's buzz for the woman playing there. There's people on the hill. There's people in the stands. They've got the little everyone's doing the Mount Smart kind of situation at the end of the field with your little food trucks and all that stuff. They got that happening, and I imagine like there would be people scattered below the cameras on the non-grandstand side. And with respect to the Wellington Phoenix women, the men's crowds have traditionally been bigger, and so that would mean more people on the hill, more people in the grandstand, more people loitering around the sideline, which just seems like a far better atmosphere than the Cake Tin. We've also got All Whites playing football at the moment. They had a 1-0 loss to Colombia.
2-1.
2-1 loss to Colombia because they did score a goal. Hold that thought. But who are they playing next? They're in New Jersey, where it is apparently cold. Who are they playing and when?
They're playing Ecuador on Wednesday, New Zealand time. So Ecuador, who very similar record to Colombia in World Cup qualifying, but with about 1 million nil draws in there. Like they barely conceded a goal through their whole qualifying campaign, but also didn't score a lot. So Colombia are a bit more closer to the opposite side of that. So we'll see how that goes.
And if Ecuador is not conceding goals, but the All Whites are scoring goals, that's going to be an interesting matchup because, yes, the All Whites lost against a better team. That's all right. That happens. No big deal. This is the world of football. But as you wrote in our newsletter yesterday, the All Whites have scored in 5 out of their last 7 games. And that's notable because the previous coach, Danny Hay, his time as All Whites coach ended with 5 scoreless games in a row. So there's some sort of progress made between the two coaches, and I mean that just sounds like reinforcement for my belief in the Bays, Darren Baisley. But the most important thing here is that they've scored in 5 of their last 7 goals. Chris Wood isn't there in the list. We got Elijah Just.
He is on the list.
Yeah, he's got one of them. Sorry, he's got one of them. Elijah Just, Marco Stamage, Chris Wood, Finn Sermon, Ben Old. So the All Whites of Aotearoa, New Zealand, they have scored a goal, not 2 goals. Let's keep it real. They've scored
the
one
goal. We're still waiting for that.
They've scored 1 goal, and these are good teams they're playing against: Ivory Coast, Ukraine, Australia, Poland, Norway, Colombia. They've scored 1 goal in 5 of their last 7 games, and Chris Wood has only scored 1 of those 5 goals. And it's all the youngsters who are scoring goals here: Elijah Just, Staminich, Sermon, and Old. So not only are the All Whites scoring more goals, but they're doing it like Chris Wood isn't scoring all of the goals, which a lot of people around the world would assume, oh, Chris Wood, he plays in the Premier League. Is he still playing in the Premier League?
Yeah. Well, he's not playing, but he is in the Premier League at the moment.
So folks would assume Chris Wood, he's the Premier League striker. He's going to be the talisman for New Zealand. He's going to be scoring all their goals. What do you know about Elijah Just? Because he only scores bangers. Marco Stamina, Silky in the midfield. Finn Sermon, a defender, he's on the list. And of course, Ben Old scored the goal against Colombia, which was set up by Sarpreet Singh, just passing it across the front of the goal for Ben Old. We'll see what happens against Ecuador, but just focusing on the All Whites scoring goals right now, and do you feel like this is progress for the All Whites under Darren Baisley and where they're at with it?
It's definitely progress. Because we didn't used to score at all against these types of teams. I don't think we'd scored against a South American opponent for about 20 years. So it's already a nice one to be able to tick off. We've actually never beaten a South American team either. In the entirety of history, we've never won a game against a South American team. This isn't just one of those away from home stats. This is under any circumstances, any venue. I didn't hold out a lot of hope for us to be able to do that against Colombia in the first place, because we were down potentially 6 starting level players and their team was stacked. There were some names in that side. And then they scored a beautiful, amazing flowing goal after like 3 minutes. And I'm thinking, this is trouble. And then they didn't score again until 3 minutes to go. And the All Whites were actually largely very competitive for most of that game, and actually leading up to and around the Ben Old goal, there was maybe a 15-20 minute spell where they were probably the better team. It felt like when Old scored, it was like, well, maybe we're going to be the team that pushes for a winner here. And then they conceded a sloppy one. And that is notable because, well, it's always notable when you concede a dumb late winner against you, because that's the last thing you want to do in that situation, because a draw against Colombia would have been spectacular. Like, it's considering, it would have been one of our best ever results against the South American opponents, considering we've never ever beaten one. So to throw that away in the way they did is disappointing, but it's especially disappointing because you remember we did this against Australia a couple months ago too, where they were 0-0 with about 5 minutes to go and Australia scored. Bit different because Australia went to their bench and chucked on Aaron Kunda and Max Ballard and a few of the Moture and those guys. And the game was definitely turning towards New Zealand just trying to cling on and Australia pushing. Whereas this one, Colombia's goal was almost against the run of play by that point that they scored it. So different like match circumstances, but still the same thing where it's like you were close to a great draw and you didn't get it because you conceded a silly late goal. And that's just like that'll spoil a World Cup campaign doing that type of thing if that's what happens. It did happen to the under-20s team. They would have made the knockouts at the most recent under-20 World Cup if they hadn't had that instance where Henry Gray completely uncharacteristically but dropped a ball against Chile and conceded a stoppage time goal to lose that one. They make the knockouts if that's a draw. They miss the knockouts because it wasn't. That's how rough those things can be. But yeah, on the whole, like especially if you take the 84 minutes in between the 2 goals that they conceded, were really good. And this was the team without Chris Wood. It's the team without Callum McCowell, without Tim Payne, without Alex Paulson, without Ryan Thomas, without someone else who was injured, who I'm running through the list out of order, so I forget, unless that was 6 players already. Like, that's some solid depth. That's some impressive stuff from the All Whites to be able to. Libby Kakache, of course, one of our most crucial players. It's good stuff. And as far as I will say one other note on that. Like, it's one of the things about why, like, the obvious reason why, if you're able to handle the absence of key players, that means you have good depth. Where I think that shows for the All Whites, where the seams start to show, is when like we can fill out a really good first 11 without those 6 players. It's when you get to having to bring on your substitutes where you start to notice, these are all like A-League players now. With good solid guy. Ben Old came on and off the bench and scored that goal. It was a tap in off the back of some great work from Sarpreet Singh, but it was a nice goal. He was in the right place at the right time. Good, courageous kind of run because there was pressure from the keeper. There was pressure from a defender. So he got where he needed to be. But, as much as everyone, including us, loves Jesse Randall right now, it's not the same as bringing on Callum McCowell in that situation, who's the second top goal scorer in the Danish Superliga right now. But like that's to be expected. And in any other era, the All Whites, you lose 6 starters and that's it. Like that's when the A-League guys are now the starting players. Now we have enough players where you can fill it out. Without that, and still go very close to getting a result against Colombia, that is a hugely encouraging thing. And the other aspect about having like those scoring in 5 out of 7 games, it would be nice if they could score a few more than one in some of those games. That's how you actually win games rather than just fighting for draws. But the fact we're scoring it all is progress. And the fact that they're 5 different goal scorers is progress, because since 2018, Chris Wood is the only. Ooh, how are we here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There have been 14 New Zealand players who have scored against non-OFC teams since 2018. So in the last 7, basically 8 years at this point, only 14 players. The only ones who've scored the only ones who've scored multiple goals against non-OFC teams in the current squad, Marko Stamenic, since 2018, Marko Stamenic, Callum McCullough got 2 each. Elijah Just has 2 as well. Matt Garbutt has 3. Chris Wood 7. So it's definitely has been a thing where like Chris Wood scores most of the goals for the All Whites. Chris Wood previously scored almost all of the goals against outside of the Oceania games. Chris Wood has only scored one of the last 5 goals against Oceania, non-Oceania teams. Well, that's actually since the what do you call it as well? I'm not going to count the Malaysia one, but Ben Waine scored against USA. Matt Garbutt scored against Ireland. Chris Wood got a penalty against Dr. Congo, who I think just qualified for the World Cup as well. Marko Stamenic scored against Qatar. So this actually goes back a bit further than that. The scoring is regularly, that's ramping up. But the fact that it's no longer only Chris Wood who feels like he's capable of scoring against those types of teams, that is not that new, actually. That's a lot of these players have been able to chip in here or there. But the other thing that stands out from those 5 guys mentioned there, where's that list again? What did I do with it? Elijah Just, attacking midfielder, plays on the wing usually for the All Whites. Marko Stamenic, midfielder, box to box, like a genuine centre midfielder. Chris Wood, the easy striker. Finn Sermon, centre back. Ben Old, winger, but like a proper winger who stays wide rather than just as a winger who drifts in. And also doing that coming off the bench. Like, this is an array of positions as well as an array of players as well, which is suggesting that they're scoring in different scenarios and creating chances in different scenarios and this kind of thing. Like, it's not enough. We're not scoring multiple goals and being able to win these games, but it is a step towards that, right? You can see in the way that in 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it all relied on, can Chris Wood score a header or something like that. Now it's not that. Now the All Whites are doing, they're able to threaten in more varied ways. You're still seeing, I think just some of these shots just aren't good enough. It's shots where it's like, you probably should do better from that situation. I think Jesse Randall had one just after Ben Older scored, where it was like a volley, where it's like he sprayed it wide, you get excited, oh man, that was a big chance. Like, yeah, but Colombia probably would have put that on target. If you put it on target, you might score it, like that's the next level to get to. But we are moving towards that. We are getting these players more confident and more aggressive in front of goal and having a bit more success.
Was Nadar Moreno playing?
Yes. Luis Diaz was playing, from former Liverpool, current Bayern Munich. James Rodriguez was there. Didn't see Nadar Moreno, though. I actually don't know what he's doing. He did sign somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's not Auckland FC.
But it is Auckland FC Reserves, because you have been tracking the Auckland FC Reserves quite closely. They've drawn away recently in the National League. They've drawn away to Auckland City, Western Suburbs, and they've won at home versus Birkenhead and Wellington Olympic. And for anyone who doesn't know much about the National League, Auckland FC and Wellington Phoenix, they are usually full of younger players with the kind of development exercise building towards A-League football. And you've been really impressed with Auckland FC so far this season. We've got a banger from Finn McKinlay, who I think is one of my favourite Kiwi footballers in Aotearoa, and I thought that way since he made his, I thought at first though, since his A-League debut, where he was solid as a youngster on debut. Some other individuals you've highlighted here, which is very important because these are the guys who are going to progress into Auckland FC as part of their development pathway. I mean, hot take. Like, I love Porirua Park, but I kind of think maybe the Auckland FC development system is better at producing. All right, this is ridiculous to say because it's like we've had one season, maybe 1.5 seasons, but there is a clear difference. Wellington Phoenix, they seem to be developing talent to sell that talent. I don't know if they're developing talent to have the best A-League teams. And I'm curious, maybe Auckland FC, there might be a slight tweak in their operations where they might just be trying to build the best A-League teams, men, and hopefully in the future women. And I do think that might be evident in how all teams play for those respective teams, because yes, the Wellington Phoenix produce good players, but there's like nothing's happening at the A-League level yet as far as winning games and performing. But some other players, Ryan Mackay, you described them as a Rolls-Royce defender who snuck onto the A-League bench. We got Dejuan Naidu, a tricky winger. We got Jonty Boudoir, mobile striker with 4 goals in 6 games. Just a bit of freestyle about Auckland FC Reserves. How are you feeling? Where are we at with it?
Well, the other big difference between Auckland FC and Wellington Phoenix is that Wellington Phoenix have age grade teams going, down into youth football, whereas Auckland FC just have a reserves team. And they kind of only want to have a reserves team. Their idea is that they want to let players stay with their clubs for longer, but also to like have outreach into those clubs and to have camps with the best players. All that, they're still putting in work to train these players, but they're also letting them get like varied coaching experiences at different clubs. And I think you see that with this squad that we got here, which, like, let's be honest, it's been 1 year that it's existed. So these players weren't developed by Auckland FC outside of, since March or something like that. Other than that, like, they've all come from different environments, and you do get it feels like you can spot the identities of these players a bit better watching Auckland FC because they are like Blackcaps seamers. Everyone's got something a little bit funky about them. Whereas in the Wellington Phoenix, when they've all come through the same pathways, a lot of their midfielders look the same. They play the same way. They make the same decisions in the same situations. A lot of their defenders, it's the same, etc., etc. Right?
Juan Loke, Isaac Hughes, Sheridan, they're all kind of the same player. Roughly.
Yeah, I mean, they've all had the same coaching for the last several years. So yeah, they're obviously physically, positionally, they're different, but like you can see the ways in which they react the same in the same situation. They have the same intent of like how we're going to build it. And for a team, that's good. Like, you want guys to be on the same page with a lot of those things, but I think you also, from individual development, sometimes you lose something out from that. It's like because you're sort of embracing conformity rather than embracing the players who are doing the freaky stuff. But Wellington Phoenix Reserves had a good win as well on the weekend. It was a funny game because they picked a stacked team because international window, no A-League game, right? So you had their entire bench except for Dan Edwards from the Derby all played for the reserves team. So like, what have I done with my page here? Gabe Sloan Rodriguez was there. Jalen Smith was there. Eamon McCarron played goalkeeper. Luke Brooks Smith and Corbin Piper played. Right? But then the thing is about that, those guys didn't really do anything. And then after 60 odd minutes, you sub off Piper, you sub off Brooks Smith. Like, there's your allotment. That was the sort of arranged time for you. On comes Luke Flowerdew, who scores the winning goal with 10 minutes to go and was fantastic. And then the other star players were probably like Lewis Partridge, right back, Dylan Gardner, centre back. Like, it's they stacked their team with A-League players, but it was the non-A-League players who won them the game, which is interesting. And that's also like, that's a cool reaction from those guys as well, to see those fellas, but then to be like, this is my moment, this is my time to my time to shine.
Righto. So it was a funky weekend for the Wellington Phoenix Reserves. But Auckland FC Reserves, get back to them for a jiffy. Like, what else are you seeing as far as like how Auckland FC are operating as a organization below the A-League? Because you said something very interesting that I didn't know, is that they've just got their one reserves teams. They're letting the players find their way at the lower levels and build their own style and identity. which I think the there was someone else. There was another dude, Mulsbury or something like that, who is from Tauranga, and he's scored a goal for Birkenhead this weekend.
Morgan Wellsbury, yeah.
Wellsbury, like that's another factor is the brewing development area of Tauranga and Bay of Plenty as far as football goes. But what else are you seeing with Auckland FC Reserves? Notable names we need to be watching out for, and how they are operating as a development A-League club who just also happens to be winning A-League games.
And winning National League games. I mean, it was, I think, the first time ever, because the Wellington Phoenix Women won as well. They beat Western Springs, which is a really good result from them. So Wellington Phoenix Men's Reserves won 1-0 against Coastal Spirit. Wellington Phoenix Women's Reserves 3-2 win against Western Springs. And Auckland FC Reserves 1-0 win against Wellington Olympic. First time all three of those A-League reserve teams in National League have all won in the same weekend, which is, that's pretty notable, because that's Phoenix Women winning against Western Springs might be their best ever result. Can't say that about beating a last place Coastal Spirit for the Phoenix men, but I'm definitely saying that about AFC Reserves beating Wellington Olympic, who would have gone top of the table, would have gone back to the top of the table if they'd won that game. Thought Olympic were uncharacteristically quite poor in that game. Like you don't expect them, well, you do expect them just to be the team that's bigger, stronger, faster. They kind of weren't against AFC Reserves, which is poor reflection on Olympic, and they're going to have to bounce back from that over the next couple of weeks just to make sure that they get into that grand final, which a few weeks ago looked like they had found their best, or were finding their best form again and heading towards being title favourites. But that's the context in which AFC just tipped them over with a 2-1 win there. They conceded inside of a couple of minutes. Gianni Bazooka scored. But then, weirdly, AFC kind of started being the enforcer type team, playing similar football to what we see from their A-League teams. They were winning a lot of challenges in midfield, very combative, holding a lot of position, moving it around, and looking to get wide and get crosses into the area, that kind of stuff. And then Finn McKinlay scores an absolute ripper about 10 minutes into the second half. And then, right at the end, Ralph Rutherford runs onto an underlap from Ollie Middleton, finishes that one. AFC Reserves win. That is their most significant win, beating a Wellington Olympic side, beating that Wellington Olympic side like that. That's their best result, but it's not an out of character result. And as I was writing in the recap piece, like by the time they scored, it just felt like that was coming, because they were the team creating a lot of chances. They were the team kind of pushing the game in those later stages, but like. Where are we here? So they lost 3-0 to Miramar Rangers in week 1 away. That's a good Miramar team. They're pushing for the final. If the Wellington Olympic miss out, then Miramar are the team pushing to overtake them. They just smoked Auckland City as well this week, and those two, Wellington Olympic and Miramar, actually play each other, I think, in the last game of the season. So that could be decisive. AFC, since that 3-0 loss though, 2-1 win against the Phoenix, 1-0 against Western Springs, 1-0 loss to Coastal Spirit, surprisingly. 1-0 draw away at Kilauea Street against Auckland City. They beat Birkenhead 3-0. They drew with Western Suburbs 1-0. They won 2-1 against Wellington Olympic. So they've only lost once in 7 games since then. Have not conceded twice in any of those matches. It's crazy stuff, because the one thing you might expect from the youth teams is that they'll have a lot of as we have seen from the Wellington Phoenix in the past, they might have a lot of skillful individuals who might be able to create something and get them a goal or two, but it's mistakes defensively, inexperienced moments like that tend to cost them. And we're just not seeing that at all from AFC. They did against Western Springs. They were winning that game very late and conceded I think in stoppage time to draw. So there have been instances within there. Auckland City's draw was also a late equalizer from City in that game, but they scored the late goal to beat Wellington Olympic. The thing to know if you're watching these guys, they do have a bye this week, so you can't watch them this week. But after that, they do have games against Christchurch United, Auckland United, both winnable games based on the form of AFC at the moment. The thing to know is that they play a lot like their A-League team. Don't know if that is strictly true for the Wellington Phoenix men's reserves. It is for the Phoenix women's reserves, but AFC do have that kind of like they are going to be combative. They are going to use their width. They are going to have sort of like a compact defense, but also a very proactive defense that gets up and wins challenges, gets gets their head on the ball whenever they can, gets in front of shots. And they're kind of stacked. Like it's a really good team. Guys who have played quite regularly, like played most of these games. Everton O'Leary at right back, Ryan Mackay centre back, Cody Phoenix left backs played a lot. Jonty Bidwa certainly. I think we've seen quite a bit of Aston Burns as a tall, strong, but also speedy winger. Finn McKinlay, of course, Ralph Rutherford, Dejon Naidu. Naidu is an interesting one because there's 2 games in which he didn't start, and they're the 2 games they lost. So even though he doesn't necessarily feel like the best player in a lot of these ones, he's a kind of skillful winger, likes to take on players. Although he's got a couple goals in there. He scored the goal against Auckland City. He did. He also scored the opener, and I think set up the second goal in the win against Birkenhead. So he's definitely had some big moments. But his selection seems to align with their best results for whatever that means. But their best player is Finn McKinlay, and I'm in awe of watching that guy whenever I see him play. In this game, he added something that I was already starting to think, like, you're such a good like defensive midfielder. He reads the play really well. He swoops across. He knows how to pounce on that second phase ball, knows where the clearances is going to go before the clearance has been made so that he can get there, win the ball back. It's very like Joe Bell type of stuff that I thought Joe Bell did that specific thing fantastically against Colombia. Also really good. Like he drops into the defensive line to collect the ball. He gets it shifted. He's got a great switch. He can hit his wingers from 50 meters away. All of that stuff. But I was thinking after watching him a few times, you know what I would like? There's just a little bit more like straight edge stuff as well. Like you don't have to. He kind of like he makes the right decision every time, but it's like sometimes maybe try a risk here or there, like dribble into that space rather than passing just to mix it up. Get a few shots going. Well, in this game he was shooting every time he could, and he sprayed about 3 or 4 of them. But then, funnily enough, on his left foot when he lined one up, his non-dominant foot just smoked it into the top corner for a spectacular goal. So he's already adding. As soon as I had like a little doubt about his game, he goes and fixes that. It's like here's that direct punch for you. Here's that extra like just straight up the middle. Let's make something happen with a rocket of a shot. A great goal. He's a brilliant player, and if he was playing for the Wellington Phoenix, I think he'd already be starting games in the A-League. He was one of New Zealand's best at the Under-20 World Cup, along with someone like Xuan Loke. So there's a similar pedigree there. And like AFC, obviously, a lot harder to get into that starting lineup. And also just as a midfielder, it's tricky stuff because you've got Jake Brimmer and Louis Verstrada forming a very good partnership lately. Brimmer's now injured. That's probably going to mean Gallegos goes in and starts there. You've still got Cam Howison on the bench in front of you, so it's difficult. Maybe that Brimmer injury will open up a little spot on the substitutes for Finn McKinlay, because he's certainly he couldn't do more in his performances for the reserves to demand it. And we have seen when positional thing like Nano Pinnacle was out injured, so Ryan Mackay managed to get on a couple benches. Pinnaker comes back, but who was it on the weekend? It was Jonty Bidwa, not this weekend, the weekend past. Jonty Bidwa was on the bench for the derby. So we've seen a couple of reserves team players. Bidwa is on a scholarship contract, as is McKinlay. Ryan Mackay isn't, which is interesting. But we have seen there's been a youngster on the bench in all of these games so far, and McKinlay's got to be close to going. I'll put it this way: if he doesn't play any more A-League this season to add to the 2 appearances, I think a start and a substitute appearance that he made last season, and he's a much better player now than he was a year ago. He's improved heaps, and he was already pretty good to start with. If he doesn't add to that, I'm going to be pretty bloody disappointed. I think he's right there knocking at the door and should be going close. But we will learn something about AFC about that. If he does or if he doesn't, we will learn something about how close they view the under-20s team to their A-League team. Like, is it enough to just be good at under-20s level, and then, which is national, it's an under-20s team, but you're not playing against other under-20 teams, you're playing against senior teams in the National League. But like, is that enough to command selection, or is it a little bit more what you do in training or whatever, or just the profiles, and it's just a matter of which position they need rather than who happens to be doing what? We'll learn some stuff based on this, because McKinley's been in spectacular form, but he's not the only one. There's quite a few guys in this team that have been, they've only lost one of their last 7 games. There's a few candidates that are knocking on the door, and Jonty Bidwai's already been rewarded with a spot on the bench, even though he didn't get onto the pitch for that game. Like, he's shown that he's close there. And as much as Ryan Mackay is close, like, well, so is Semi Nabenu and Luka Viselic. So there's plenty of good. And Adam Bali as well was fantastic in that game against Wellington Olympic, playing as a centre back. He doesn't always play centre back, but he did in that one and was great. So it's a deep team. Even guys like, I think Aston Burns right now is in a similar situation to where Nathan Walker was for the Wellington Phoenix this time last year. There's similar caliber players. I think they even both came through Fencibles, so they probably played a bunch together. So there's plenty of options for Steve Corica if he's paying attention, and if he's willing to lean on his team's reserve side, on their development system. Not as much as the Wellington Phoenix do, but a little bit more than maybe he did last year. Although even then, we still saw a few of these guys playing games last year too.
I believe the Breakers had a big win and then a loss, as they
the usual.
Made a habit of doing. And after every win, it's like, whoa, the Breakers they had a win, they're awesome. And you just kind of sense they're going to lose the next game and they're going to stay at the bottom of the NBL ladder, second to last, 4 wins this season. I don't know what else to say. Do we have anything to add on what the Breakers are up to? Because every week it's win, loss, loss, win, and we just say the same shit. So do you have anything new to say?
4th of November 2024 was the last time they won back-to-back games. It was the last time they won a game having won the previous game. So we're now past a year. It's been over a year of the Peteri Koponen Breakers without winning consecutive games of basketball. And it's not good.
But can you,
I don't think they're as fluctuating as it seems, though, because I think I might even try to do this for the, there's a FIBA break coming up, so I will write about them properly and try to get a gauge on where they're at next week after they've played this weekend's game. But maybe in the Thursday email, I'll try to find the actual stats, because I think the skeleton key for the Breakers thing is just how close is the game after 3 quarters. Because when they were blowing away Brisbane on Wednesday night, 4th quarter didn't matter. And they won that game comfortably. When they were only, 3 or 4 points down away against Perth after 3 quarters, they played crap in the 4th quarter, like they always do every single time it's a close game. They play crap in the 4th quarter, and they lost. And I'm pretty sure we could find if the game's within, 5 points or something after 3 quarters, they've lost every time. If they've been up by more than that, they've won every time, something along those lines. I'm pretty sure I can find a stat that will align exactly with the Breakers season so far, because that's what it feels like. All the other things, there are other aspects of, like, even Sam Menega didn't have a very good game against Perth. So there's things like that where it's like there are fluctuations within that. But generally, if you want a summary of the Breakers season thus far, is they are an abysmal 4th quarter team. And when the game is close after 3 quarters, they lose. Whether they're winning after 3, whether they're losing after 3. If it's close, they go on and lose. If they're winning comfortably, 10 plus points up after 3 quarters, those are the games that they've won. All of their victories have been blowouts. All the close games, they've lost.
The 1 year of no back-to-back wins is a bit tricky, because it's like, how many games? That's the thing I want to know. How many games has it been since the Breakers last won back-to-back games? Because obviously a year stretches across 2 different seasons. Yeah. So you don't need to tell us right now. It's okay.
I don't know, but I would guess 25 to 30 odd, something along those lines.
And that's all Coach Koponen. is all I'll say, because otherwise we're just hating on him every single week. Righto, let's get into a little bit of rugby league to finish us off here. The rugby league at the back end of our big podcast will usually set me up for the rugby league video later in the week, and the last rugby league video touching on Patrick Moimoi moving to the Panthers. I was pondering a top 10 Warriors youngsters yet to debut. And this is my top 10 right now, which it will obviously change. Kalis Fatialofa, number 1, Luke Hansen, number 2, Jason Salalilo, number 3, Sio Kelly, number 4. Could have Sio Kelly, number 2. We'll see how we go. Makaya Tafua, number 5. Jet Cleary, number 6. Jacob Auloa, number 7. Rodney Tuipulotu Vea, number 8. Kalis Putoko, number 9. And Paya Sikuvea, number 10. That's all very taking a trip through Dome Valley fresh off the dome, so I haven't put much thought into that. But it's a good summary of just where the Warriors juniors are at, with Sikuvea is the only one in that list, I think, who played under 19s last year. So he played under 19s and then he spent most of the year in under 21s, and he's probably the biggest benefactor with a couple of the departures moving into that top 10. But then also all those players were under 21s during the 2025 season. So they're all under 21s who I think Sikuvea is the only one who did not play New South Wales Cup this year. And some, like, we've got the 2 Christchurch forwards, Lennox Tuiloma, Bishop Neal, who will be factors in this list very soon. And then there's other guys, like if Joseph Ratcliffe is still with the Warriors, he's an exciting fullback on the rise. Brandon Norris, if he's still with the Warriors, outside back. Kahu Kappa, Jack Thompson, I've seen them in the summer photos. They will be factors on this list as well. But because we had Patrick Moimoi joining the Panthers, what's the whole Panthers Warriors storyline? What's all the news has been about what?
Well, you're getting at, there's a few things you could be getting at there, because there's the coaching line of the Warriors hiring old mate from Webby from the Panthers. There's the Panthers Warriors to Panthers kind of playing style. But I'm guessing you might be leaning towards a certain Jet Cleary signing.
No,
we don't. Is that as well then?
Jet Cleary is like R360. We're like, who gives a shit? The Panthers signing a lot of players from the Warriors, right? So that's been the big thing most recently. But the funky thing about the Panthers is that they also have, there's a few deeper cuts that makes me think if the Panthers, like your Dragons and like the Rabbitohs, their Kiwi NRL recruitment is going up and up and up. So we got all the like Kailani going, Tom Alley, Toby Crosby, Patrick Moimoi types. Then we've also got Compton Purcell at the lower level, who will be pushing, if he's still with the Panthers, he'll be pushing for under 21s footy to start next season in their under 21s team. He played under 19s for the Warriors, then played a few games of under 21s for the Warriors, made a mid-season switch to the Panthers, and was in and out of their under 21 team as an under 19 player. So I suspect he'll just settle into that under 21 team. But they have also signed Hami Loza, which we've talked about, very talented half from Aotearoa, who was initially in the Knights system. He played under 19s, under 21s, and New South Wales Cup this year as a half in the Panthers system. In the Knights system, sorry, and now he's in the Panthers. There's another dude called Kaya Cribb, who's from the Waikato Te Iti Rea Rea. I don't know exactly where that club is because the old Google search isn't helping me out there hard and fast, but he is from the Waikato, and the Panthers have signed him as well, a fullback who played for Burleigh, the Malmaninga Cup Championship Burleigh team, which also had Antonia Verhoeven from Greymouth and Marley Igerson from Tauranga. They are in the Broncos system. Kaya Cribb also played 2 games for Burleigh in that competition as a fullback, and he's in the Panthers system now as well, apparently, coming out of Palm Beach Currumbin on the Gold Coast. So not only do you have the Panthers recruiting these players from the Warriors, but you got the Panthers making some, Kaya Cribb is a fullback, Hami Loza is a half. Their spine positions who the Panthers, they haven't recruited them from Aotearoa, they've recruited them from other, I don't know if Kaya Cribb was aligned with an NRL system. Burleigh, I think they're affiliated to the Broncos at the moment. And Palm Beach, Currumbin, one of the best rugby league schools in Australia. But the Panthers didn't recruit them from Aotearoa. The Panthers recruited them from around Australia, but they are very good rugby league players from New Zealand, and that is a notable development. And Kaya Cribb's got an athletics background, so he's obviously fast, which is always a useful skill set to have. I haven't seen any new signings for the Dragons, but we do know they've picked up a few. Kalisa Masi, Rocco Walker. There was another one as well, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But the other team, the other NRL team who has had less Kiwi NRL juniors over recent years has been the Rabbitohs. But they have made a change. Like, it isn't as drastic as the Dragons, because the Dragons only now have they signed a few juniors to their system from Aotearoa. The Rabbitohs have had a few juniors in their system already, but it just keeps increasing, which is a good development for the Rabbitohs, considering they didn't really have too many Kiwi NRL juniors in their system. Again, there's the Warriors angle. Edward Kossi, Mawala Graham Taufa left the Warriors to move to the Rabbitohs next season. But the Rabbitohs also signed Philip Lava Kiaho, who was with the Roosters. He played in the Roosters SG Ball Championship, and he went to Wesley College. I think he played some junior rugby league for Papatoetoe, and now he is in the Rabbitohs under-19 squad. Also in the squad is George Kite, spelled kite, so not sure. He's a Papatoetoe junior as well, who was in the wider Warriors system. He's a big bopper. So Kite Lava Kiaho, they are both big forwards. And then we also know that the Rabbitohs signed Salmaki from Nelson Boys First 15. And based on what I know about him, very powerful runner. So right there, you've got a couple of interesting forwards entering the Rabbitohs system at the under-19 or the under-21 level. The Rabbitohs also had Kalis Samuel playing in their SG Ball and under-21 teams last year. He's a Mangere East junior. He's a good edge forward in that Rabbitohs system. I know I'm missing one, and I didn't include this in my newsletter bit yesterday, so I just want to pull up some team lists and do a bit of research on the fly to make sure I'm getting this fellow here. And obviously Hazen Malaz left the Rabbitohs to join the Warriors. The Rabbitohs also have Nazareth Tawa, I believe, who's a middle edge forward from, he's a Marist junior. and they signed Devontae Mihinui last season, some point. He is a Glenora junior. He's a middle forward who did play a bit of New South Wales Cup. So those are two players who I was already tracking in the system. I can't find this one player I'm thinking of. But the Rabbitohs also have this dude, Charlie Poynton, who is... He was born in Auckland, born in Aotearoa. And there's another dude, Dean Tawa, who is also from Aotearoa. But those two didn't play junior footy in Aotearoa. So I don't have them as Kiwi NRL juniors, but they could be part of the Kiwi NRL mix if they do want to pursue Aotearoa representation. Here we go. Kairangi Matthews is another player who I spotted last year playing for the Rabbitohs under 21s. I think he might be from... Where's he from? Arataki. I'm not sure where that is. Bay of Plenty. So it might be somewhere in the Bay of Plenty. Kairangi Matthews, edge forward for the Rabbitohs as well. So this is just a random under 21s game for the Rabbitohs last year. Kayla Samuel is on the bench. Devontae Mihinui is at lock. Kairangi Matthews, edge forward. Nazareth Tawa starting prop. And then we got this Charlie Poynton fella at fullback for the Rabbitohs. So all of that is notable because, like the Dragons, but far less hateration than the Dragons, the Rabbitohs did not have a lot of Kiwi NRL juniors in their system. Depending on where those dudes are at heading into this season, I just named 4 Kiwi NRL juniors who played a random game of under 21s last year. Now they've added Lavakiaho, Kite, Salmaki, Kosi, Graham Telfer. It's another 5 right there. So the Rabbitohs are definitely embracing the Kiwi NRL juniors, and obviously we love to see it. And also the Panthers, who are renowned for their development pathway, but as we always say, there is no such thing as catchment areas or local junior kind of... There are local juniors, but the Australian idea of catchment areas and local leagues and that stuff doesn't apply at all, because every NRL team, and I can say this confidently now because the Dragons are doing it, the Rabbitohs are doing it, all NRL teams are recruiting junior players from Aotearoa, as well as, of course, around Australia. So if the Sydney teams are recruiting players from Queensland, where does catchment areas apply? It doesn't. And especially with the Warriors, because as we know, Luke Hanson from the Panthers, Jet Cleary from the Panthers, Jack Thompson from Cessnock in the Newcastle catchment area, Jylan Nain from the Newcastle catchment area, Brandon Norris from Northern Territory. So none of the catchment areas apply, but I just find it interesting. The Panthers, arguably the best NRL system right now, they're increasing their Kiwi NRL recruitment slightly different because they're not necessarily recruiting them directly from Aotearoa. But then you've also got the two teams that had the fewest Kiwi NRL juniors. They are increasing as well. And then if we go to the defending champions, Brisbane Broncos, they have Kiwi NRL juniors littered throughout their system, all high quality juniors, led by some of those Burleigh juniors who won the under-19 championship in Queensland, Antonia Verhoeven and Marley Igerson.
So who have the Panthers signed from the Warriors? I think Toby Crosby went there, right? And wasn't there someone else who was like, there was a rumor but they didn't sign? Like, is this because we have seen the Warriors make a few of those signings, the Jet Cleary, Luke Hanson, etc., signings from the Panthers. But it's you saying like lately this has been also a two-way street where the Panthers themselves are also looking towards the Warriors, suggesting obviously there are close links between the two because there are staff who have worked for both, so that stacks up. Everyone knows everyone there. But What's the Warriors to Panthers pathway at the moment? Like who's making
Keilani
that
going, Tom Alley, Toby Crosby, Patrick Moimoi. They tried to sign Kalis Fatialofa, but he decided to stay with the Warriors. Like there was a bit of news about the Kalis Fatialofa situation because apparently he had come very close to joining the Panthers, but there's the 10-day cooling off period where everyone's just cooling, and he decided to stay with the Warriors. So if you look through that, like if the Panthers sign Kalis Fatialofa, they're probably not going to sign some of these other forwards.
Yeah, right.
But they've all, like, so right there, Keilani going, Tom Alley, Toby Crosby, and Patrick Moimoi. That's 4 forwards from the Warriors moving to the Panthers this summer. Patrick Moimoi, as I said in the YouTube video last week, like he started as a centre for the Warriors, but he was playing most of his games for the under-21s at the back end of the season as an edge forward. So I think the Panthers, it will be interesting, like what positions they think these players are best at. Because Keilani going predominantly played middle for the Warriors, but he did dabble in a bit of edge. Tom Alley kind of played both equally, middle and edge. Toby Crosby is more of a straight up middle forward. And Patrick Moimoi played centre and edge forward for the Warriors this year. Started off as a centre, like he played New South Wales Cup as a centre in 2023 before sliding backwards a little bit 2024, and then he started as centre this year before moving to edge forward. And of course the Panthers have officially announced the Keilani going, Tom Alley signings because they're at the NRL tier, where I think the Toby Crosby, Patrick Moimoi moves are New South Wales Cup. And even Compton Purcell, who the Panthers signed from the Warriors earlier in the season, he's a centre/winger. So he's got a bit of positional versatility. So given what we know about the Panthers system, it will be interesting to see how they view the best positions for some of those players. Because what did Isaiah Papali'i do all season? He moved between edge and middle. Some games he started in the middle. Some games he came off the bench to play through the middle. Some games he played edge forward. For the Kiwis, Isaiah Papali'i was just 80 minutes edge forward with Britain Nikora. But then he was playing middle and edge for the Panthers all season, which is a very similar style of player to Keilani going, Tom Alley, and maybe Patrick Moimoi. So that is the kind of pathway that might be available for some of those forwards in the Panthers system. And then, of course, it'll be very, 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 very interesting to see what level does Hami Loza start the season with the Panthers, because he's an under-19 player who played New South Wales Cup for the Knights this year. So he probably will start out at under-21 level as a starting half for the Panthers. And then it'll be interesting to see how much New South Wales Cup he plays for the Panthers, because like it's one thing to play New South Wales Cup for the Knights, right? But it's a different thing to be playing New South Wales Cup as an under-21 player for the Penrith Panthers. And if you think about the Knights, Hami Loza was one of the best halves in their system. Jai Linane was one of the best halves in their system because he was playing up an age group a few times, or up a few age groups, before his never-ending kind of knee injury situation held him back. So the Knights, not knowing a whole lot about the Knights system, but they've lost 2 really good halves in their system, Hami Loza and then Jai Linane. Jai Linane moving to the Warriors, but they still have, well, at least during the 2025 season in their under-21s team, they had Ryder Williams from Auckland, Maris Jr. and Cullen Gray from Whangarei, Hikarangi Jr. in their system as well. So some of those Knights teams in the under-21 level this year, you had Cullen Gray, Harmy Loza, and Ryder Williams in the same team. 2 halves and Cullen Gray playing fullback. There's another dude as well, Ryder Crosswell, who's another half from Aotearoa. He is from Palmerston North, I believe. And I think he spent most of his footy in the Knight system this year at the SG Ball level. So he's another half from Aotearoa who the Knights have signed. And he's another player who will probably leave the Knights just as he is looking like a NRL player, because that's what the Knights have a habit of doing.
Right on. That's fascinating stuff, that the Panthers are dipping as much as that into the Warriors system, where it's like you can see why the Warriors would do it to the Panthers, because the Panthers have been setting the they've been setting the standard for NRL development for the last 5-10 years. For it to happen the other way as well is that's quite a significant tick for the Warriors and what they've been doing. But obviously we did see the success of their New South Wales Cup team. I think if that doesn't put you on the map as a club that's developing some very good players, especially with how young that team was, it wasn't just a bunch of veterans out there winning, a lot of young players playing important roles for that for the Warriors New South Wales Cup side, which was kind of better than the Panthers New South Wales Cup side. That'll put you on the map, and to see the best sort of the best development team, well, the team with the reputation at least of being the best development side, recognizing that and grabbing a few of the available players, the guys who just there isn't a spot for them in the Warriors right now. Okay, well, yes, we'll figure that out. But then also the fact that a lot of them seem to fit a similar mold of the type of player that they're looking for is also funny, considering that the Warriors, what they were looking for was halves from the Panthers. So
that's
everyone gets what they want, right?
That's the interesting thing, because it looks very simple. Like we're men, we're humans, so we're simple creatures. The Panthers have signed predominantly, aside from Compton Pissau, even Siali Whaiamane last year, the Panthers have signed forwards from the Warriors. The Warriors have signed 2 halves from the Panthers, but the Panthers also signed Harmy Loza, who is a half from Aotearoa. They also signed Kaya Cribb, who's a fullback from Aotearoa. So the Panthers aren't signing halves or spine players from the Warriors, but they are signing spine players from New Zealand, which is a funky little development that I actually only realized right now.
Well, what a podcast for,
It's all off the top of the dome, taking a trip through Dome Valley, freestyle things as we do. Big up to you. Do your best. Enjoy all the Aotearoa sport, even the sports we don't talk about, because it's all good. It's all sport. It's all Aotearoa, and we are here to do our best, as you should as well. Big up to you. Kia kaha. Stay beautiful. Church.